Ethan was 12 years old when the teasing began. He wasn't the type to stand out in a crowd, but his heart always seemed to speak louder than his voice. He'd hold doors open for strangers, share his lunch with kids who forgot theirs, and stop to help teachers carry books down the hallway. It didn't seem like much to him, just little things that made the day a bit easier for someone else. But to some kids at school, his kindness was something to laugh at. It started small. Whispered jokes behind his back. Snickers when he picked up a dropped pencil for another student. Comments like, "Hey, Ethan, why don't you marry the lunch lady since you love helping her so much?" He'd smile, not because it didn't hurt, but because he didn't know what else to do. His mother had always told him that kindness was never wrong. That if people laughed at him for it, it said more about them than it did about him. But the laughter got louder. And sharper. One afternoon, Ethan was in the cafeteria when he noticed a smaller boy struggling to open his milk carton. Without thinking, Ethan reached over and helped him. Across the room, a group of boys burst into exaggerated awe and fake baby talk. "Look, it's Saint Ethan, savior of milk cartons," one of them called out. They laughed so hard they almost spilled their trays. Ethan's ears burned, but he simply went back to eating his sandwich. It was easy for others to say ignore them, but the truth was, words stuck. They followed him home. They echoed in his head when he tried to do homework. At night, lying in bed, he'd wonder why being nice made him the target. Sometimes, he even tried to imagine what it would be like to just stop. To look away when someone needed help. To blend in. But every time he saw someone struggling, his instincts took over. It was who he was. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning in early winter. Frost clung to the windows, and the school hallways smelled faintly of wet coats and hot chocolate. Ethan was at his locker when he heard the sound of laughter, different this time. Not playful, but sharp and mean. Turning the corner, he saw the group of boys who often teased him. They were huddled around someone on the ground. As he got closer, Ethan's stomach dropped. It was Noah, a quiet kid from his math class, his glasses knocked sideways, his books scattered. One of the boys was holding Noah's hat high in the air while another pretended to toss it into the trash. Ethan didn't even think. He walked right up and said, "Give it back." The tallest boy, Mason, smirked. "Oh, look who it is. The hero. What are you gonna do, Ethan? Save the day again?" His friends laughed. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He just held out his hand and said, "Now." Maybe it was the way he said it, steady and certain, or maybe it was that the hallway had grown quiet, but Mason tossed the hat to the floor. Ethan helped Noah to his feet, dusted him off, and handed him the hat. "You okay?" Noah nodded, his cheeks red. The boys muttered something under their breath and walked away. Ethan thought that was the end of it. But by lunch, rumors were already spreading. "Ethan thinks he's some kind of superhero," someone said as he walked past. "Careful, he might try to rescue you from eating your fries wrong." That night, he sat at the kitchen table, poking at his dinner. His mom noticed. "Tough day?" she asked gently. He shrugged. "I just don't get it. I'm not doing anything wrong. But it feels like the nicer I am, the worse they treat me." She reached over, placing her hand on his. "Being kind isn't about what you get back. It's about who you are. And who you are, Ethan, is someone I'm proud of." The next few weeks weren't easy. The teasing didn't stop, and sometimes Ethan felt like he was carrying the weight of it alone. But then, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, as school was letting out, Ethan saw Mason, the same boy who had tormented Noah, struggling by the bike rack. His chain had come loose, and he was clearly frustrated, yanking at it with cold fingers. A couple of his friends had already walked ahead, laughing about something else, not even noticing he was behind. Ethan could have walked right past. He could have thought, "This is what you get." But instead, he stopped. "Want some help?" Mason looked up, startled. It's fine," he muttered. But Ethan knelt down anyway, pulled the chain back into place, and wiped the grease from his hands on his jeans. There. Should work now. Mason stared at him, like he couldn't quite process it. Thanks, he said quietly. Ethan just nodded and walked away. The next day, Mason didn't say anything mean. In fact, he didn't say anything at all. But as the week went on, Ethan noticed small changes. The jokes in the hallway grew fewer. The snickers in the cafeteria died down. It was as if that single moment at the bike rack had shifted something. If not in all of them, then at least in Mason. A month later, during gym class, the teacher announced they'd be doing team relays. Names were called out, and Ethan found himself on Mason's team. The old tension prickled in the air, but when it was Ethan's turn to run, Mason slapped his hand in a high five and shouted, "Go, Ethan!" It caught Ethan off guard, but he ran faster than he thought he could. Their team won. Everyone cheered. After class, Mason walked up to him. "Hey, remember that time you helped me with my bike? I didn't get why you did it. I mean, I was a jerk to you. But, thanks. I was having a really bad day, and you didn't make it worse." Ethan smiled faintly. "Sometimes, that's all we can do for each other." Mason nodded, almost sheepishly. "I guess I was wrong about you." The change didn't happen overnight. Some kids still didn't understand him, and some never would. But slowly, Mason started speaking up when others made fun of Ethan. And then one day, something happened that no one could have predicted. It was a rainy Friday afternoon, and the school parking lot was slick with puddles. Ethan was about to cross when he heard a loud crash. A car had skidded into the curb, its front bumper bent. Inside, a woman was struggling to get out, clearly shaken. Without thinking, Ethan ran over, opened the door, and asked if she was okay. She said she was fine but couldn't get the car started. By now, a few students had gathered, including Mason. Without a word, Mason pulled out his phone, called for help, and stood by Ethan's side until the woman's husband arrived. She kept thanking them, her voice trembling. What Ethan didn't know was that someone had filmed the whole thing from the moment he rushed toward the car to the moment he helped the woman into safety. By Monday morning, the video was everywhere. Students were sharing it, parents were talking about it, and teachers were showing it in class as an example of courage and compassion. The same kids who had once laughed at Ethan were now telling him they'd seen the video and were impressed. "You didn't even hesitate," one of them said. That was amazing. But for Ethan, it wasn't about the attention. It never had been. It was about the fact that when someone needed help, he was there. Just like he always tried to be. Weeks later, the school held an assembly. The principal called Ethan to the stage and presented him with a certificate of recognition for outstanding character and bravery. The applause was loud and genuine. As Ethan stepped down, Mason was the first to meet him at the bottom of the steps. "Told you," Mason said with a grin. "You're kind of a superhero." Ethan laughed, but deep down, he knew the truth. He wasn't a superhero. He was just someone who refused to let the world change the way he treated people, even when it was hard. And maybe that was its own kind of strength. Years passed. Ethan grew older, but the lessons stayed with him. In college, he volunteered at shelters, tutored kids after school, and organized food drives. Sometimes, he'd think back to those days in middle school, the teasing, the doubt, the moments when he almost gave up. And then he'd remember the look on Mason's face at the bike rack, or the gratitude in the woman's eyes that rainy afternoon. Those moments had made the pain worth it. One summer, during his sophomore year, Ethan was walking through town when he heard someone call his name. He turned to see Mason, older now, but still with the same easy smile. They grabbed coffee and caught up. Mason was working as a youth counselor, helping kids who struggled with bullying and peer pressure. "You know," Mason said, "I don't think I ever told you this, but you're the reason I do what I do. Back then, I thought kindness was weakness. You proved me wrong. You changed how I see people." Ethan sat back, a lump forming in his throat. Sometimes, we never know the full impact of our actions. Sometimes, the smallest kindness can ripple outward in ways we could never imagine. And maybe that's the lesson here. The world will always have people who mock what they don't understand. But if you stay true to who you are, if you keep showing up with kindness, even when it costs you, you might just change a heart. You might just change a life. And one day, when you least expect it, the kindness you gave away will come back to you in ways you never dreamed. Because in the end, kindness isn't about being noticed. It's about noticing others. And in a world that can be unkind, choosing to be kind is the bravest thing you can do.